2. East Hampton Town Board, we are live.
Thank you, LTV. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the East Hampton Town Board work session of Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. Carol, if you could please read the roll call.
Councilmember Flight, Councilmember Lease.
Present.
Councilmember Rogers.
Present.
Councilmember Calder-Piedmont.
Present.
Supervisor Burke Gonzalez.
Present. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So for today's work session, we have a proclamation to Dick Monahan, which I'm going to try to hold it together when I read it because we just love you, Dick. Then we have typically public portion, which we ask you to please keep your comments to 3 minutes. We have 4 topics, liaison reports, and then resolutions. Our first topic is the Montauk Food Pantry update with Alice Hausneck, the executive director. We're going to start with that because today is their distribution day, and I know folks need to get back to work. So please come up to the podium. Patrick, if you could load the PowerPoint. And Alice, the floor is yours. And we see that you've got a lot of supporters here today.
Supervisor, town board members, community, and Montauk Food Pantry volunteers. Hi, everybody. I'm Alice Hausneck, and I'm the volunteer director of the Montauk Food Pantry. I wanted to start off by giving you a little background with how the food pantry began. Very humbly, 35 years ago, there were 2 women who worked at the Montauk School, Fran Ecker, I'm sure many of you know Fran, Inez Fox. They realized that several children were coming to school with inadequate food for their lunch. So they just kind of quickly pulled this group together, and they asked the community church, if you could go to the next slide, they asked the Montauk Community Church if they could use that little shed in the background. So that was their original headquarters, the shed, and you know how little the shed is. So they would just line up about a dozen bags and fill them with food, and then they would deliver each of them. So after a while, next slide, please, they realized they were getting more and more people who required food. So they talked to the people at the church, and the church said, well, you can share the convent, which is over on the St. Therese property, and there they were able to put 2 freezers into the kitchen, so that helped tremendously. So they were there for, I don't know exactly how many years, but 13 years ago, we were able to move to the next slide, please, to our current location. So that's in the lower level of the St. Therese preschool. And what's really advantageous about this is we have ample space down there, plus a kitchen area. So we've got 3 freezers. We have a big professional reach-in. We also have a regular refrigerator. And they all come in handy, and they're a must. And we also have just ample room to spread out. In addition, there's a drive-through that goes right down to the front doors. So it's very easy for volunteers just to lift the bags, put them in the car, and then off they go. Next car comes down. So we're fortunate to be in that location now. Next slide, please. So our mission is to collect and distribute food to benefit needy families in Montauk and to encourage interest, awareness, and activism of the plight of the needy in the area. Montauk is a high-end resort area. The demand for service workers is critical in order to keep our economic engine running. So while jobs are plentiful, our workers find it extremely challenging to find reasonable housing in addition to keeping up with the overall cost of living. So we aim to provide for these very service workers. Supplementing fresh and non-perishable food such as fruit, vegetables, bread, cheese, meat, and diapers is our main goal. If we can lessen the food burden on these workers, we can alleviate some of their expenses, thereby reducing their food insecurity. Next slide, please. So we make quite an impact in the community. Some of you will be surprised to know how many people we actually serve. So As I just said, we do provide for the service workers and their families, for example, caretakers, restaurant, hotel employees, landscapers, et cetera, to keep our economic engine running. And I have several statistics now. The cost of living in East Hampton is 220% higher than the national average. I was shocked when I read that. We serve 2,000 people each month, at least 750 of whom are children. 47 million Americans suffered from the threat of hunger in 2023. 13 million of them were children. The new domestic federal policy will take $1.2 trillion from social programs. So this is really going to hurt us, hurting all the food pantries. The new domestic, soon more than 2 million people are going to lose their SNAP benefits. So SNAP, if you're not familiar with that, that stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is run by the government. But that's going to be scaled way, way back. As federal government support shrinks, the demand for food pantry assistance increases. Next slide, please. So our annual budget is $400,000. Now, that money all has to be raised, and it's a constant challenge for us. Each distribution costs $16,000 alone, and that enables us to provide for 7 meals to each family. Here's a group of our volunteers. Some of our volunteers are looking pretty up there, and they're in the room right now. This is a little more than half of the group that we need to run the pantry. It takes more than 30 volunteers to run the Montauk Food Pantry. And zero payroll allows us to use every cent to purchase food. That's one big advantage. So could we go to the next slide? Oops, I think we skipped one. Was there one ahead of that? No? Okay. Okay, so these are some of our volunteers in action. We have a back room where we pack all of the food in those brown bags. We recycle all the cardboard, bring it to the recycling center. We recycle our plastic wrappings. We bring them here to the library, and the library uses those, gives those to some outfit that can convert it into benches, like park benches, kind of a Trex material, I guess that is. So, okay, we can go to the next slide. Oh, this is what I was looking for. Yeah, thanks. So we're really fortunate to have a lot of support from many organizations. And 2 of them, Amber Waves Farm and Balsam's Farm, supply us with fresh vegetables throughout the season. And they're donated, 100% donated. So we thank all of those people involved in the farms. And if I can thank Ian Calder right now, thank you, Ian, because I talk to him every week, and he writes back and says, we have lettuce, zucchini, tomatoes. So, okay, yeah, so those are some of our supporters. And next slide. Additional corn, potatoes, you see that also from both of those farms. We could go to the next slide. Long Island Cares is our food bank. A food bank is the big distribution, like a giant warehouse filled with all the food. A food pantry is a smaller entity, like we are. So our food bank happens to be Long Island Cares. They're based up in Hop Hog. And at least once a month, we get a giant pallet of food from them. But these cutbacks with the government from the social programs like TFAP, which is the Emergency Food Assistance Program that the government runs, and SNAP, as I've mentioned, once these stop, Long Island Cares is not going to be able to supply the food pantries the way they are now. So that will be difficult. Okay, we could go to the next slide. In addition, Stop and Shop in East Hampton has been so good to us. One of our officers, she happens to be the vice president of the pantry, Lorraine Kelly, she drives up there every week, and they fill her SUV with all sorts of miscellaneous items, and that comes in real handy too. So we are indebted to Stop and Shop. And next slide, please. Okay, some of you are here. Some people are in that picture. Okay, this is the Montauk Community Church. They have a rummage sale every single Saturday, and they work so hard to get the clothing and the other items all cleaned up and presentable. They sell them, and then they turn around and give us a lot of the proceeds. So hats off to Montauk Community Church. Also, Montauk Montauk Chamber of Commerce. I don't have a picture of that, but the farmers market on the green every Thursday, all of those different booths have to pay a certain amount of rental space to the Chamber of Commerce. And then the Chamber of Commerce every December hands us back a nice check, anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000. So we do honor the Chamber of Commerce also. And we'll go to the next slide. Also, the schools, the East Hampton High School, the Montauk School, do recurrent food drives. The library here upstairs, every October, they put a big box in the foyer collecting food for us as well. We could go to the next slide. The Montauk Public School, the fourth graders each year sell mums to their family members, and then with the proceeds from that, they call me in, I do a little spiel in front of the classroom, and then the kids hand me a check. And it's so cute whenever they hand me a check. I look at it, I go, oh my God, it's $1,000. And the kids start reaching into their pockets and coming up and trying to give me more money. Yeah, so that's really sweet. Next slide. We also get support from the Montauk Girl Scouts. Sometimes they come and just for a little tour of the food pantry, and then sometimes they'll actually go door to door asking for diapers. So we're indebted to the Montauk Girl Scouts as well. Okay, next slide. In addition to all this support from the town, we do fundraisers, 2 of them each year. One of them is at the dock, the annual running race, and the proceeds from, they do a 50-50, a raffle, and the runners themselves have to pay to enter. So with all of the proceeds there, half of it goes to the Montauk Senior Center, and the other half goes to the Montauk Food Pantry. Next slide. And Inlet Seafood Restaurant down at the end of East Lake Drive, for the last few years, they've been doing a holiday party. It's a boat parade, and with the proceeds from there, they give us money. Actually, last year, they also, let's see, I'm forgetting who. They split it last year and gave it to another group and us, but they intend to do it again this year, so we'll benefit from that too. And I think I mentioned that I do write a grant to Long Island Cares each year. That allows us to get those pallets of food. I also write a grant to several hedge fund people who will donate as long as, we'll just keep them informed about what's going on. And the town of East Hampton, I write a grant to the town, and the town supplies us with additional support. Okay, so the next slide. Okay, this is just another picture from the party at the Inlet Seafood Holiday Boat Parade. And lastly, we'd just like to express our gratitude to the East Hampton Town Board, to our community members and businesses, to all our donors everywhere, and of course, to our volunteers. So if anybody has any questions, you can go ahead. Otherwise, my portion is finished.
Do board members have any questions or comments for
Two
Alex?
comments, if you don't mind. First, if anyone wants to participate, donate, or contact the Montauk Food Pantry, how would they do that?
Oh, thanks. That's a good question. We have a website, and it's montaukfoodpantry.org. So they simply go there. They can donate through PayPal on that site. And there's our address also if they just want to write a check and mail it.
Personally, I also want to thank you for your participation in the community, at the town's community housing advisory board. A lot of people might not know that in this room right now, but your participation over the last couple of years is critical to making sure we try to provide as much affordable housing as we can as we use the referendum that the town passed a couple of years ago. I know you sit on that board with Ian also, but the time that all the free time that she has is spent even other ways, knowing that we're trying to take care of the community.
don't get a lot of food dropped off in that shed. I keep everything that's not expired. Should I keep some of the expired stuff or no? I usually throw that all away.
Oh, yeah, no, I wouldn't keep anything that's expired.
Ate spaghetti yesterday,
Oh, okay.
and it expired in 21, so.
Yeah. Oh, that would, we prefer not to take anything expired. Uh-huh, yeah. All right, thanks for that question, but we'll stick with the fresher food. Yeah.
Alice, just a quick question. I know we saw a big increase in demand on the food pantry during the pandemic. Since that time, can you just kind of give some insight into how the numbers changed? Has it stayed at that level? Are you seeing it increasing, decreasing? What's the picture like that?
Okay, so during the pandemic, we were serving close to 400 families each distribution. And that put a dent in our finances for sure, but after the pandemic ended, then we started to, build up our funds a little bit. Now, currently, we have a few different seasons, like unlike East Hampton's food pantry and Springs food pantry, they remain pretty constant every single time they distribute. Because we're in a seasonal area, our busiest time is the spring, a whole influx of service workers. All of a sudden, you look out the door and you see these lines of people just coming down because they've either just arrived and they're starting their job, but they don't have enough money to buy groceries. So the spring and summer are the busiest. In the fall, right now, it'll slow down slightly, but then around Thanksgiving time, it goes to the lowest point. So right now, our busiest, we were serving 320 families. By November and December, it will probably go down to about 150 families. So it's not constant like the other pantries.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I just want to take a moment now to acknowledge the, when you showed a picture of everybody's volunteering, you said zero payroll. And I just like to always pause on that so that we can really understand the amount of volunteerism that is in this community and just say thank you and express gratitude for everyone that just volunteers all of this time. And 150 families isn't a small number either.
Right. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And I would just reiterate what previous board members said. I know, Alice, how much effort it's one thing to receive donations from all these different places, but somebody has to organize it and make it all happen. And so I know how hard you work on that. And obviously it takes a large team. I see a lot of people I know who are on that team. And as Kate said, it's one of the lovely things about this community. We have a lot of people in need and we have a lot of people willing to give their time or however they can. And so it's greatly appreciated. And as Dave mentioned, I also serve with you on the Community Housing Advisory Board, and so just another way that I see you give back and just greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alice. It's grateful to see Montauk take care of their own. Thank you.
Thank you. And some of us will be leaving now.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But, we are distributing.
Thank you, Alice.
Okay, so I did say we were going to go a little bit out of order. What I'd like to do now is ask Dick to meet me at the podium. Will you meet me at the podium, Dick?
How's that, John?
I'm right behind you.
Okay.
I'm going to take a deep breath.
Me too.
Whereas Richard Dick Monahan has devoted his life to service, earning admiration and respect through decades of commitment to public safety, health, and community well-being. And whereas he has served with distinction as an ocean lifeguard, first earning certification at the remarkable age of 63, and continuing to inspire as the oldest certified ocean lifeguard in Suffolk County, a role in which he has embodied endurance, skill, and dedication to the protection of others. And whereas a founding member of the East Hampton Volunteer Ocean Rescue, Dick helped shape the organization from its earliest days and has long been a respected mentor and role model to generations of rescue swimmers and lifeguards, instilling in others the values of courage, teamwork, and selfless service. And whereas throughout the years of service in Montauk and East Hampton, he has given generously of his time and talents, serving as a commissioner of the Montauk Fire Department, as an emergency medical technician, an ambulance driver, and as a reliable first responder whenever his community was in need. And whereas his leadership and dedication also extended beyond emergency services through his involvement as a board member of the East Hampton YMCA Recreation Center and as a longtime participant in the Master Swim program, reflecting a lifelong commitment to fitness, health, and the enrichment of community life. And whereas during the summer months, he could be found on duty at town beaches, including Ditch Plains, where his presence as a lifeguard provided reassurance to countless residents and visitors, and where his willingness to cover additional shifts and step in during difficult surf conditions reflected his generosity of spirit and steadfast reliability. And whereas his record of service across so many vital areas of community life, combined with his good humor, humility, and quiet leadership, have earned him the deep respect and affection of the Montauk and East Hampton communities, making him not only a protector, but also a cherished neighbor and friend. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the town of East Hampton does hereby honor and commend Richard Dick Monahan for his extraordinary record of service, his leadership across many roles, and his enduring dedication, to the safety. The last line, and his enduring dedication to the safety, health, and vitality of our community.
Thank you.
If you'd like to say a few words, yeah.
I just got to make sure this is me they're talking about. I just want to point out my involvement, to the extent that it became involvement, all started when we moved out here. And it still brings tears to my eyes. Gordon Ryan's daughter, when I saw the community just pull together when she was passing, I was just amazed at the community. Amazed at the community. I had never been in a community that pulled together like that. And I said to myself, I said to Simone, my wife, there's got to be a way I can give back. And it started with me becoming an EMT, and then an EMTA, and then we, with John Ryan, we started the hurricane swim team, which I had experience with in Huntington. I was the head coach of the Huntington Bluefish before I came out here. And he got me involved in ocean rescue. And that's how my association with the lifeguarding. The day I passed the test, which certified me to be a lifeguard on the stands here on the ocean, he said to me, Dick, we're going to have to shut down some stands out in Montauk. We don't have enough people. We need you to get up there and volunteer. And I jumped right up on the stand. And about 3 weeks later, I get a check. What the heck is this? You're going to ruin my tax. But that's how that started. And I've loved this community. In fact, we have a place down in Florida, down in Stewart. I'm going to sell it this fall, my two brothers and I. And I love Montauk too much. Every time I land in West Palm Beach, I'm saying, when's my flight back? So I love the community, and that's why I'm involved to the extent that I am. And my wife has been so supportive of the time that I've had to be away from the family and support the organizations that I pursued. One of them was the Playhouse. I was on the board there for about 17 years, and I was one of the motivators in the second pool so that people can do their laps without having people in the way. And it's coming to fruition if we can jump over the well, I guess the obstacles that the Department of Health has found. But we've experienced that even in the East Hampton pool, but they're flexible. Hopefully, they're going to be flexible enough for us to open soon. But I want to thank you very much. I thank the town board for this recognition. I really had no idea what it was about. Mom had called me on the phone, said, "Are you going to be here?" And I said, "Well, I got a doctor's appointment on Southampton," which I still kept, but I was able to get out here. And I sent an email out the other night to a bunch of people saying, "You guys responsible? Anybody here instigate this thing?" I was just shocked. So I want to thank you very much for letting me be part of this community, and I'm glad that I was able so far to participate and instill some leadership in lifeguarding and other areas. And thank you for letting me participate in Montauk. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for you. Thank you.
Okay,
Can I just say quickly?
up here, please.
That's all right, I do it. Yay, Monahan!
Okay. So for those folks that want to leave, now's the perfect time. And we're going to now go back to the agenda and we'll go to public portion. Carol, was there anyone signed up for public portion? Okay, is there anyone here? David, you wanted to say a
Thank you, Judy.
Good morning.
Brittany got stuck her
Yeah, no,
her flight, so Jake's gonna do it if you're good with that, otherwise we can postpone it.
Yeah.
Okay, David?
This is not for me.
Oh, did Dick leave without it?
Yeah. Right there.
That'll be it for another day.
Yeah, a few more years, Dave.
Thanks, Tom.
Good morning, I'm David Buda from the Springs. I had an opportunity to prepare some written remarks and with some exhibits, so I'm going to just mention that. In addition, this way you can follow along with what I have to say today. The exhibits are some relevant photographs. I'm going to talk about one of the topics for today's work session, and that is the proposed UR map modification that would be benefit and is based on an application by the owners of 213 Fremont Harbor Road in East Hampton. Also attached to my written remarks are 3 photographs of the subject property, and in most particular, the area of the proposed abandonment, which is currently fully treed between property at 213 and 217 East Fremont Harbor Road. And then attached to that are 2 forms of the actual current county tax map produced by Suffolk County Real Property Tax Service Agency, the actual tax map, lot lines, and their aerial satellite view overview of the tax map. So what do I have to say? I am here to express my thoughts and concerns about today's work session topic concerning proposed UR map modification proposal for 213 Fremont Harbor Road in East Hampton. In my opinion, even though The pending application has already received the positive recommendations of the planning board and consulting town engineer. I do not believe that the full implications of all aspects of the application have been given due and proper consideration. I urge you to do the following. Number one, before any resolution is adopted to schedule a public hearing, if any of you have not already done so, I suggest that you visit the subject area to better appreciate the difficult existing conditions and the possible impacts of granting the requested old filed map study map modification. Even though, number two, even though not currently required by the provisions of Town Code Chapter 232, Article 1, which is the urban renewal treatment of old filed maps, I suggest that if and when a public hearing is scheduled, that you require the applicants to provide adequate, say 14-day notice, 14 days of actual notice to the other 4 nearby property owners that share vehicular access along the common driveway that was originally dedicated as Washington Street in filed map 119, which is Montauk Lawns, Section 1. In particular, the owners of the property commonly known as 217 3 Mile Harbor Road, which are M&B Leicester, may be seriously adversely affected if the application is granted, which would likely allow the applicant to clear cut an existing 20-foot wide, fully treed natural buffer between that property's parking area and the property of the applicants. 3, I urge you to require the applicants to inform you how they intend to use the Paper Street land area that is under consideration to be authorized to be abandoned. It should be noted that the applicants already own a fully conforming lot of 1/2 acre, 0.50 acres, with ample available building envelope area to the rear of their existing residence. And also, unfortunately, their front yard is currently being used to store several commercial trailers in apparent violation of town codes. See the attached photographs. If the requested road abandonment is to be granted, perhaps it would be appropriate, as a quid pro quo, to require the imposition of a scenic easement over the fully wooded 20-foot strip of land that currently provides visual screening for the benefit of both the applicants and the owners of the nearby properties, particularly the property commonly known as 217 3 Mile Harbor Road. Last point I want to make, although not directly related to the matter at hand, I would also urge you to revisit Resolution 2025-794, which accepts the road improvement contribution from URP 47 in Whalebone Woods, which was adopted just this past June, and consider supplementing that resolution to authorize and direct the expenditure of the $18,000 that was paid by Unifam LLC as the developer of the new residence located at 221 3 Mile Harbor Road to be used to make such improvements as may be determined by the town consulting engineer to be reasonable and necessary to improve the existing pavement and drainage conditions on the common drive that is used by the 5 involved property owners. I find that the area is not an example of good planning. It originally was supposed to be 3 properties to share a common drive. There are actually 5. It is insufficiently paved, no adequate drainage, much in need of improvement, and instead, recently, when you had the opportunity to require the payment of money by a developer for road improvements, instead of directing it to be benefited to this area, it went into the common fund because this is a Whalebone Woods area. I'm not even aware of how many of these 5 properties are part of the affordable housing single-family residence program known as Whalebone Woods. But regardless of that, the new house certainly is not, and that roadway needs improvement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Would anyone else like to address the board? Please.
Good afternoon. I'm not signed up. My name is Trish Scott. Thank you. So I just wanted to bring up a quick matter of my little prop, taxis. This is all we need these days to drive a taxi on the East End. Taxi companies come from all over, New Jersey, Connecticut, from the city. and all they have is one of these stuck to the top of their car. They have large lettering on the side of the car saying VIP Hampton's Taxi. They have East End Taxi. They have no livery plates, no taxi plates, hence they're not insured. So I called the police, several of us did actually, at the start of the season. This has been going on for a number of years, I'd say the last 5 or 6 years. And the person that I spoke to up there said, well, we can't really get around the matter because they say they're driving for Uber. That's not what they can drive for Uber and they can run a taxi. But the very fact that you're running a taxi, you still have to adhere by your code. I think it's code 285 or something. You have to be licensed with the town. You have to have taxi insurance with the town, and nobody is monitoring this. So when the police department said to me, well, they get around it by saying that they're over at the train station driving Uber. That's fine, they can drive Uber, but they can't advertise taxi and they can't pick up as a taxi. So the complaints this year, I do 3 jobs. One of them, I do Ubering. We used to own a taxi company out here for a number of years. The reason no one goes and gets taxi insurance anymore, it's prohibitively expensive. Even with Uber coming into town, you'd think it might have dropped off a bit, but it actually had the adverse effect. So to get a car on the road with one car only is around about $8,000. Then we all got letters in the mail recently, because we owned a taxi company for a number of years. We all got letters in the mail from the town board saying we now have to come back on board and register our companies and go through all the license again. I'm not sure why it ever stopped, the excuse of COVID or whatever, but these people are not licensed. So if something happens in one of these VIP East Hampton advertised taxis with all as they got on the taxi is this, if something happens on the road, they are not covered. They are not licensed, insured, the people riding with them. So it's just a nightmare waiting to happen. So that's that issue. The other issue I think the town should address is the Uber drivers that do come out here. There must be something that as a town board or the East End can do for Uber riders to be out here, such as you could maybe put a law on the books, you can drive Uber out here, but we want to know who you are, and they should be licensed and registered just like taxi drivers with the town. I don't know how you're going to get around that with Uber, but there's some real unsavory people out here, especially this season. It was really, really bad. So one of the jobs I have is at a sushi restaurant. We had complaints where these Uber drivers, like to see them come in, like they've literally come off the beach, like absolute slobs, that they come in and they pull over on the side of the road as they're doing your food delivery. So forget Uber Eats, everybody. And they had a little snack on the way. One lady's juice was half full, and he just said it tipped up in the car. Of course, they call back to us, the restaurant, saying, what's going on here? Like there's some real horror stories out there. So I think there should be some sort of legislation on the books for the East End not acknowledging these Uber people, and they're sleeping in their cars, but it's hard to get around that because they say they're Ubering at 4 a.m. or whatever. But it's not a good look for the town. But probably can't address much with the Uber at the moment, but certainly you can with the taxi. So it's as simple as having either an additional code person on. It's more in season, as everything out here is, but an additional code person or somebody monitoring it. So when it's right in front of your face, it's not hidden. VIP East Hampton Taxi. They have no livery insurance. They have no taxi insurance. Just got this. And they're loading up 15 to 20 people from the nightclubs. And they're also taking work away from all the rest of us who live and contribute to the community out here. So I really think it needs to be monitored. It's an easy monitoring system. The police or the code official, whoever has the jurisdiction, simply walks up to VIP or East End Taxi. Now Ted's Taxi in East Hampton's doing it too. He was playing by the rules, and then I guess he just thought, hell, no one else is getting taxi insurance. Why should I part with $8,000? A friend of mine, Dermot, he recently opened his new taxi company, did it the right way, went out, got his insurance, and that's what it costs, $7,000 to $8,000 per car. So if you want to have a taxi business out here, I think you should know who the person is. I myself, it was about 8 years back now, I just finished my job over at Heather Hills, and I got pulled over for some fine. I had the wrong size lettering on my taxi, and I thought, they got to be kidding, And I said, I'm sorry about that. Let me address it. Nope. I got handcuffed, taken up to Wainscott, went in front of Judge Rayner. I mean, we just thought the whole thing was, I thought it was a bit of a joke initially, I was fined $500. for having the wrong size lettering. Forget the lettering, now they don't even have insurance. But it's very clear. You can go over to the train station this afternoon at the 2:30 train. You can see if there's LV stands for livery, TY is taxi. It's so simple. Taxi, the livery insurance, you can't be hailed, is my understanding, whereas taxi, you can do both. But I think it needs to be addressed. And also on that note, the limited service vehicles it was a good idea at the start to give people a ride around town, lessen the carbon footprint and what have you. But now they're utilising them as taxis. We have an apartment on the side of our house here in Montauk. We rent it out to some Irish girls every summer, and they used it as a taxi. And they were going to and fro work as a taxi, calling up the driver saying, come and pick us up, and paying them just like a taxi fare. So I think limited use vehicles should also come under the jurisdiction. We should know who the drivers are. We should have background checks done on them, fingerprinting. It's got to go across the board. And then the last one is the hopper. Initially, that started out for the same rationale of limiting the carbon footprint, great idea and what have you. But now they're using them for wedding parties and stuff. You go up to a hopper, hey, can I get a ride somewhere? Oh no, we're doing a private event or whatever. So it's like everyone seems to have their scam, but I really think they need to crack down on the taxis. It's only a matter of time before something happens. Well, things did happen all this summer.
We had to speed it up. We had a 3-minute limit. If you could just wrap it up, Trish.
Yes, so please, can we address that everyone has the insurance? Otherwise, they're off the road, or fine them and get $500 per fine, like we all used to. Thank you.
Thank you, Trish. Anyone else like to address the board? Jason, is there anyone on the line?
One moment.
Hi, everyone. This is Jason calling. I just want to let everyone know that the phone lines are up and operational, but we have absolutely no callers except for me listening in.
Thank you, Jason. All right, so we're going to go back to our topics. So next up is the UR map modification for 213 3 Mile Harbor Road in East Hampton. Patrick, if you could pull the maps up, and Charlie, if you could come up to the podium and take us through the memo. Thank you.
Oh, I missed the food pantry, but I know that my Aunt Fran would be very happy to see that it's still going very well. So good job with all that stuff.
And Alice mentioned your Aunt Fran.
Yeah, oh, she did. Good. I know she would know. So this is for a request to modify the urban renewal map, EH-6-2. This is off of 3 Mile Harbor Road. This is the existing map. As you can see, it's referenced lot number 16. The Winslow Avenue that runs north-south adjacent to the property is a paper road that's never been opened. Well, there's a section of it that's open north that goes off McKelney up to Berryman, but this section was never open. Part of half the road was abandoned to lots 13 and 14, and the applicant at 16 has asked if they could have the ability to also abandon the other half of the road to their property. Engineer signed off, had no issues with it, and planning board also had no issues with it.
So Charlie, you had comments and concerns about scenic easements and use of the property and what the intended use of the additional relinquished property would be used for? Those common questions?
No, as far as my understanding of the urban renewal, that's never been a requirement of any modification. Possibly, not to say maybe a subdivision, but it's not a subdivision. Just a changing of the lot. I've never seen that required or even asked for. I've never asked what it's used for. It's really not, that's not what this is about. It's changing the map, and then they could incorporate it into their lot. The other properties were able to take the land, so I think that was probably the idea, that they were allowed to. Why is this one? I don't know why the map was drawn the way it was drawn in the 70s, but that's that's just a request. The board can act on it either way. But I've never had it, in my experience, I've never seen a scenic easement be required.
The second part was when you go to the public hearing for this then too, is there a notice that's on the street?
No. It's in the paper. It's posted, and no notices are mailed. There's no mailings to adjacent property owners.
Okay.
So my only question is just the one that was raised earlier about 217 and the access kind of potential impact to that property, just looking at the maps here. Was that discussed by the planning board or not?
That's
number 13 on the map.
Yeah, they take access to the north. As you can see where that dot is, you see the black dot to the north of 13? That's where they take access. That's where their driveway's supposed to be, and then they take over that where the arrows go out to 3 Mile Harbor. So I don't really see, again, I'm not the applicant, so I just want to make sure I'm not advocating either way.
Right.
But I don't see how that impinges on where this abandonment would happen does not interfere. It would just be if you look at the proposed, which is the next slide. The red box.
You still have the dot.
There's still dots right there. The driveway's right there. It's not really,
Okay.
yeah. And, there was a comment about the funds used for the Whalebone Woods. Generally, when you're in urban renewal and you want to get a building permit, you have to do some road improvements of some level of some kind. Whalebone's different. The town, when they developed Whalebone, the town upfronted the money and did all the work. And then instead of making the people in those areas do road work because the roads are done, they basically pay the town back. So that's what that money is. It's kind of recouping costs that were expended in the past.
So they're not being spent somewhere else to
No,
bring a
not
road
that I'm
into a-
aware of.
Yeah.
No, it's really it's kind of recapturing money that was
Got it.
outlaid at the time.
Okay. Does anybody else have questions for Charlie?
No, I have no questions.
Are folks ready to bring this to public hearing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so we'll schedule that.
Put it on.
Yeah, well, I'll figure out the dates, but yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks, Charlie. Okay, so next up, we have the proposed ADU legislation. Unfortunately, Brittany couldn't be here today, so I believe, Jake, you're pinch hitting. Hey, Jake.
Good morning. Still morning.
Still morning. Wow.
So Brittany Toledano, our deputy town attorney, has worked closely with the town board to establish these changes. Councilman Flake, would you prefer to go through them and I can answer any questions?
Sure, we can do this together. I mean, so I can give the kind of the overview, which is, following our last town board discussion relating to this, we kind of wanted to bring forth 3 fundamental changes. The first is reducing the lot size for attached ADUs from the existing code that says 20,000 square feet to 15,000 square feet. The second was to change the requirement that for anyone who wishes to build an ADU, that it was their principal residence. So now people where it's their non-principal residence, they can also build an ADU with this code change. And finally, it's to change the parking requirements. The code previously said that you had to have 4 spaces. So you could only have 4 spaces if you had an ADU. This increases that allowance to allow up to 5 cars to park on the property as per the code. So those are the key kind of overall changes. Obviously, as with the code as it exists, things are tied together. So you'll see kind of larger kind of changes in here that we can walk through. So, starting from this on page 1, you can see item number C. We're changing it to principal residence or non-principal residence with a Code A compliant accessory dwelling unit. That's the first change in there. On to page 4. So on page 4, permits are required and conditional use. So here we had to kind of adjust the language a little bit to say that the primary dwelling and the accessory dwelling unit of the single family residence need not be owner occupied, provided one of the following conditions are met. The accessory dwelling unit is rented or occupied by either a person who qualifies as a resident or a member of the owner's family. In the event that the owner wishes to reside in the affordable dwelling units, that basically means, you could build an ADU, choose to live in there yourself, and rent out your main residence, still within the rent qualifications, but you can do that here as well. So you can do that either, or your family members can do that as well. Number 2 here, for the purpose of the section, resident is just clarified to mean any individual who lives or works in the town of East Hampton, but it can also include a person who is not currently a resident of the town, but has resided within town in the past 5 years. That's comparable to the other code changes we've had with the AHO, et cetera. And I think that's just kind of our definition we're working with as a resident at this point in time for our housing drive. Number 3, just kind of states, nothing herein shall prohibit the owner of a single-family residence to participate in the rental registry program. So what this is about really is that, look, if you choose to build an ADU, we don't want to prohibit you from wanting to do that by saying, hey, I might want to rent out my main residence for a short period of the summer. We don't want this to be punitive to you to do that. So you still have the ability to do that. That's something we got feedback from, and that's part of this being a non-principal residence. So pursuant to, in accordance with the terms and conditions set forth in Chapter 199 of the East Hampton Town Code, and provided that any accessory dwelling unit located within or detached from a said single-family residence is leased or owned by the family to a person who qualifies as a resident or the members of the owned family. Number 4, rent for the accessory dwelling unit, as I noted earlier, should be determined by the affordable housing guidelines and terms found herein, including to and not limited to, but rental limits set forth for the affordable housing unit pursuant to 215-120. So, that's something we've been consistent with, throughout ADUs. The only thing I just want to reiterate here is that if you build an ADU and choose to live there yourself and rent out your main residence, the primary dwelling, it still has to fall within those rent guidelines as well. On to bottom of page 5, start of page 6. Again, this is just consistency with language here, saying the accessory dwelling unit should be occupied by the person who qualifies as a resident or a member of the owner's family. Number 2 here says that the accessory dwelling unit or any proprietary or other interest therein shall not be sold, conveyed, or otherwise transferred separate from the principal dwelling. I think that's fairly self-explanatory. You can't sell your ADU once you've built it. This is an important one for number 3, that the accessory dwelling unit is the sole legal residence of the tenant who lives in there. So if you're renting an ADU, that is your sole residence. You can't say, no, my primary residence is elsewhere, as seems to happen sometimes these days. This is your sole legal residence. Moving down to proof of ownership. This is on page 8. We haven't really changed any here, but just to change the title here, which is instead of proof of residency of the owner, it's proof of ownership of the property. The qualifications for that have not changed. On page number 9, number 5A, we've added some language here to clarify, to say an accessory dwelling unit permit may be transferred to a subsequent property owner upon approval of an application submitted to the Office of Housing and Community Development. So should you build an ADU, sell your property, the new owner can continue with that ADU. They just have to, as makes sense, obtain that permit from the Office of Housing and Community Development to continue that ADU existence. Lastly, on page 10, occupancy requirements. Again, this just really qualifies who can occupy. So here we're saying, changing the language, say an accessory dwelling unit shall be occupied by either the property owner, a family member of the property owner, which for this section be limited to spouse, child, or parent, a resident who otherwise qualifies for occupancy of an accessory dwelling unit pursuant to 215-1163. For the purpose of the section, a resident shall mean the individual who lives or works in the town, but may include a person who is currently not a resident of the town, but has resided in the town within the past 5 years. So just consistency there. And there was just some tidying language. Let me go back to one, Dave. Parking, thank you very much. So this is on page 12, paragraph G. Parking, just the change here is just a code change number, 215-1160E for parking, and this is changing from 4 to 5 vehicles on the said lot. So you can't park more than 5 vehicles on the said lot. Page 3, site requirements. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, thank you very much, Dave. Let's get there. Sorry, going back to page 3, just this was, as I mentioned earlier, this is changing the language with regards to the lot size. It's paragraph B2. No accessory dwelling unit within an existing single-family residence shall be constructed or maintained on a lot with a total area of less than 15,000 square feet. No accessory dwelling unit located within the detached structure shall be constructed or maintained on a lot with a lot area less than 20,000 square feet. So this is only changing for attached ADUs, and that's decreasing from the existing 20,000 square feet to 15,000 square feet, as noted. And 12, 13. On page 13, 3A, we've added language here just saying that notwithstanding, this is for subleasing, notwithstanding the foregoing, in no event can an accessory dwelling unit be sublet. So once it's built and it's rented out to a residence, that cannot be then sublet out to someone else because, again, this is to serve residents of the town. And that is all the changes I have. Jake, anything else you want to add there?
I will add that there is some teeth added to this, specifically under 255-1163D. There is an illegal unit presumption that's created, wherein if there's 2 or more indicators of a separate unit in existence, the town may presume an illegal apartment exists. We have added owner verification requirements under the same section regarding sworn statements of compliance. Failure to do so creates a violation. Further, upon if a permit expires, failure to renew it creates a presumption of illegal occupancy. So it shows me that the town board has worked closely to ensure that we have proper compliance, we have some teeth, so we can ensure that something's created, it stays as it should.
Correct. Okay. Any questions, fellow board members or comments?
I think my main comment comes to a lot of what our ADUs is that enforcement is going to be one of the main elements here. As you're saying, they don't have a permit. You have to force that individual that didn't get the permit to make sure that the property comes back into compliance by removing any of the additional aspects that make it an ADU, kitchen specifically on there then too. That would be run through the Office of Community Housing Development as it is currently right now. I think these are reasonable requests to try to move forward the need for accessory dwelling units. And also, as Jake just mentioned, the proper verification and teeth is very important because put the cynic hat on a little bit then too. Some might try to, but we have to make sure they don't then too, and we have the proper enforcement angles on there also. So I thank you, Tom, for those 3, and we'll see how this goes.
Thank you. I'll just quickly answer. I mean, I agree with you on the enforcement. Look, the last thing I think any one of us want to see is any of our housing initiatives to address the housing crisis out here abused. And I think, look, enforcement is a discussion that we kind of need to have almost separately to say, look, we're doing these housing drives, but, are they getting abused? And, what are enforcement mechanisms? Are they strong enough, both in terms of the staffing and also the fines that we kind of are going after people with if they are abusing this? So I acknowledge that. I think enforcement is key.
Yes, Tom, thank you so much for bringing this back with the changes that we spoke about. And I like the guardrails. That's always important for me. When I'm looking at any future planning, could you just go over the rental registry part again for me?
Sure.
I missed what you were saying.
Okay, it was early on. So my oversight was basically, look, if you currently have a dwelling without an ADU, you're able to be on the rental registry. We don't want to stop people from building ADUs by saying, hey, if you now build an ADU, you can't be on the rental registry with your primary dwelling. So it's just adding the language in, clarifying that people can still do that.
But one of the dwellings would have to be registered under the Affordable Housing Department, right? Under the Affordable Housing Guidelines here, where a rent would have to be X amount for a family member.
Yes.
Right. So
correct. So it's that's why we had to kind of put in the language of the primary dwelling here in that sense. So if someone is living in the ADU and under all terms, and that's being leased out at the affordable limits, that's okay. The primary dwelling that the non-principal resident lives in can be rented out under the rental registry. Conversely, if the primary dwelling is where, the ADU resident is living under those terms, the ADU, which is where the non-principal resident is now choosing to be their part of the building, they can lease that out under the rental registry. So it's just kind of still allowing that flexibility that should owners of these properties wish to continue to have that option, they still can.
Right, okay, thanks. Thanks for clarifying that.
And, oh, sorry, Kate, go ahead.
No, could I just ask a follow-up question? So they could rent it out for any length of time?
Consistent with the rental registry laws.
Okay.
The ADU they could?
No, not the ADU.
If they live in the ADU, the other one?
Yeah, correct.
And then along the same lines, and I'm sure this is covered in there because it sounds like you, and thanks, Tom, I really appreciate you pushing this forward. I think ADUs are going to be a huge part of solving the affordable housing problem here. And I know you've worked hard on this with your committee and with Brittany and the attorney's office as well. There would not be an ability for a homeowner, just to be clear, to move into the ADU, claim that as their primary,
Correct.
just for the summer, and then rent the other one out at market rate. That's not possible?
That is correct.
Great.
To be clear, also under the Justice Court Act, for which our town justice court falls, we have within our code specific language that allows us to seek pretty high fines that goes to the amount of rent that might have been obtained illegally, so we can make a significant financial impact in our enforcement of this. So while a fine might be capped at $1,000, $2,000 under the Act, we're allowed to go after the actual amount of rent that they received and multiply that. So we can create a great financial disadvantage to doing illegal renting.
No, I think that's great, because I think enforcement's hugely important as well. And my reading of the code is just like you said, it's already strong and you're making it stronger. So it's just a matter of us making sure that we're staffed and that procedurally we implement the tools that we have in place to make sure they're used properly, so.
So obviously this is chapter 255, so this has to go to the planning board.
Correct.
So are we looking to send it to the planning board first, or are we going to notice it for public hearing and give it a month and?
I think let's send it to the planning board, get their
First.
feedback. Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Okay. So everybody's good with this now going to as next step, going to the planning board?
Yes.
Definitely.
Okay, beautiful.
So I want to thank you, Jake, for pinch hitting. Thank you, Tom. I also want to thank our new Director of Housing, Mark Morgan Perez, who is here also. As we move this forward then too, I know your office is going to be actively involved in this, and I appreciate your dedication, and welcome to the town too.
Yeah.
Mark, you want to stand up and wave for everybody? Dave stole my thunder. I was going to do a big introduction for my liaison report.
You still can, you still
We
can.
have to speak.
And safe travels to Brittany. I feel very bad for her. She's had a tough time out there. So thank you for pinching, Jake. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Jake.
Thank you, board.
Okay, and now, Kate, you wanted to bring forth a stop sign request.
Yes, this is a request that came from residents of the Crossways and in Waynescott. Here's my memo. So the residents of
Here.
okay, I got it. The residents, we get a lot of stop sign requests throughout the town. Understandably so, because we have a lot of folks that don't really respect the rules of the road here. However, I think this one stands out for several reasons. One, Westgate Road is a very well-known cut through or bypass for folks trying to get back to make a left turn at the traffic light on Waynescott Northwest Road. You can weave through these very narrow streets and small neighborhoods and get back to that stoplight to be able to successfully make a left back onto Montauk Highway. So it's used much more than normal neighborhood streets for traversing those streets. Also, there are limited businesses, limited business district businesses, professional offices that are at the end of Westgate Road, which also contributes to folk coming out of there. And if you're going to try to get back to East Hampton, it's impossible. So you're going to, again, weave through these narrow streets roads. As you could see, when this is requested, where the stop sign is, there was a tree placed in the middle of the roadway there. It's not a cul-de-sac, but it's placed there. The right-hand turn onto the Crossways, which is a very narrow street with not a lot of shoulder whatsoever, it's hard to see going around that turn unless you stop and you take a look. The residents that live on this street are concerned about their own safety, their pedestrian safety, and the kids riding bikes on that very small half street. That's why I brought it forward to the town board and seek going to public hearing on this stop sign.
I will say I'm fully supportive of this. I've, also as you have, Kate, spoken with PD and Department of Public Works on this. They're supportive. I think it's a good change.
I agree.
Yeah, same. It's not a roundabout.
It's not a roundabout.
If anyone wants to go and be a planning wonk, if you want to look at the original development of this neighborhood here and how the roads are laid out back in the 40s, 50s, it's very interesting, almost as interesting as the area of Queens Lane in that area then too, if you look at the design.
Yeah.
I think actually at one point you'll even see that they wanted to put a railroad station in this location too.
Yeah, the other issue that's happening here also is because of the proliferation of commercial activity by the pit and other places. Commercial trucks are also using this quite frequently, and they're very large and have an even tougher time seeing around that corner.
Right, and as you mentioned, the professional offices there's dentists, there's physicians, and I go to both. And they have given me a map over the years to say, please don't try to make a left turn on Westgate. Please go the back way. So it's something that the offices promote. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that can go to public hearing.
Jake, can I get a public hearing on this one? Thank you.
Very much.
Okay, so we have a last minute addition, and this is for the Montauk Inlet Navigational Improvement Project. I'm bringing forth a walk-on resolution to allocate $1.1 million from East Hampton's host community agreement with South Fork Wind to ensure the Army Corps of Engineers Lake Montauk Harbor Navigation Improvement Project moves ahead this fall. The federal government committed $9.5 million, and the town had already invested $1.5 million under our 2022 project partnership agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers. But when bids came in higher than expected, the Corps informed us that another $1.1 million was required to keep the project alive. Federal officials set September 10th as the deadline to secure those funds. Without them, the dredging this fall would have been canceled. Congressman Malota told this community the fall dredge would be done and fully funded. That promise fell short. And when word spread this weekend that the project might not move forward, Montauk's fishing community was left worried and anxious, uncertain about what it would mean for their boats, their wallets, and their families. Montauk is a critical port of refuge for commercial and recreational vessels and supports Coast Guard operations that protect our region. This dredge is about more than navigation. It is about public safety, protecting livelihoods, and safeguarding our maritime economy. The host community agreement with South Fork Wind will provide nearly $29 million over 25 years for projects of community benefit. To date, the town has received over $1 million under the agreement. This is separate from the Wainscott Fund. Today, we're putting those funds to work exactly as intended, to protect this community. By adopting this resolution, we make sure Montauk's dredge can move forward, fully funded. We ensure this harbor remains open and safe, and we show the people who depend on it, our fishermen, our families, and mariners across the region, that East Hampton stands with them. And I think it would be helpful, David, if we put up a couple of map so you could describe the project.
Sure. Madam Supervisor, very well said. I think you hit the salient points here for the history and to the board. As the board is, we've discussed that this project is about 14 years in the making. We've worked really hard in the last couple of years to secure the easements on here, but again, the bids came back higher than were anticipated, and unfortunately, the federal appropriations can't move as fast to appropriate any more money to this project. So I want to thank the town board for the discussions that we've had in the last 96 hours to be able to determine that this is this is justified within the town's comprehensive plan, Goal 6, in which we are to maintain environmentally sensitive fisheries and also agricultural uses. And as Montauk is the largest commercial fishing port in New York State, it just makes sense to me personally. As you'll see here is a snippet of what the scope is for the Montauk dredging project, is to bring the harbor down the navigational channel to 17 feet with a potential 2 feet of overburden taking, and also to remove areas of the deposition basin, which is on the east side of the channel, to allow for a longer maintained aspect of the deepening of the channel. It goes from just outside the tips of the jetties, just past the commercial dock at Star Island, another location in which the town has recently put in nearly $2 million to rehab that dock for the commercial fishing fleet. It is an appropriate dredging project because of the next factors on the next slide I'll show you. What you'll start to see here is some of the soundings on there. What you're seeing at the top right is how all the shoaling is happening in between the tips of the jetties going in down towards Gosman's Inlet right now. This is where early in the spring we did an emergency dredging to take it down to 12 feet. The Army Corps sent in their operational dredge, but you can see how much it is shoaling in that area. And honestly, since the emergency dredging with the northwest winds that we had over the course of the wintertime, it is shoaling in once again then too, we're hearing from our fishing fleet. And it is critical to keep this open as it is a federal port of refuge also then too. Next slide. What you'll see here is through all of the stations that they're called, and that's how the Army Corps lingo, if you want to say, takes you to stations. From station number 1, I believe it goes down to about 31, and you can see how much the areas between the tips of the jetties, which is to the left, has shoaled up, and that's where the majority of the material will be taken, and then also about 150,000 cubic yards will be placed on the area just west of the western jetty. Next slide, please. To make it even more challenging, and through the methodology of this dredging right now, is that there are massive rocks that are still within the channel that are marked on here with X's. They're actually either in the channel and we are either never removed in the first place, but they have to be removed because they're impediments to the dredging to get down to 17 feet. The methodology brings two different types of uses of barge techniques, one being a clamshell to remove the rocks, which means just go and they grapple it and remove it and go into the offshore borrow site off of Montauk. The second will be a suction dredge in which they will come in and take all the sand out of there. It is extremely important to complete this at once to make sure that the navigability of the channel is here as soon as possible within the dredging window. Last slide also is that this is where the material will be placed just to the west of the jetty going towards Culloden Point and then also taken to a slope that goes out to dissipate wave energy, very similar to what they just did on the ocean side also. So that beach will be elongated, and hence it'll be in the littoral drift zone of the harbor, and eventually knowing the prevailing where the prevailing drift is, the littoral drift zone, many of the properties to the west will benefit from the sand placement over the years. It is imperative that this project moves ahead for the protection of the mariners, as the supervisor just mentioned on there. When the red flag came up and the bid came back high, right now the town board got together with our finance department. I want to thank Rebecca Hansen tremendously for working with the town, Jake, yourself also, then to find ways to be creative, use the fundings that we have, where I believe there's a true nexus to protecting the fishing industry here to move this ahead. The reason why is because the SEPTA bid to mobilize and to hit the window of dredging, which has been added 1 extra month to 3 months for October, November, and December, we have hours to complete this. I think this is steadfast showing the town board's commitment to finding solutions instead of hurdles. And you've done that, Madam Supervisor. I thank you very much for your diligence.
Yeah, well, it's funny you said that it's been 14 years that this project has been being discussed. I remember my first year on the board, which was 2014, 12 years ago, sitting in the Montauk Fire Department when we used to have our work sessions there, discussing this project. And with what's happening, with our federal government, it feels like this is our one shot. If we don't have the funding in place to do this project, I don't have the confidence that this project's going to go through.
I think that's the second time we've heard that, also just from Alice Houseneck on there. We have to take care of our own, and this is one way we can do it and make sure hopefully this moves ahead. So this is the biggest portion that we need to move on. And I think after this, the town board will be committed to nearly $2.5 million to this project right now.
Yeah, I just say thank you for helping coordinate this, David. I mean, look, I know that, anecdotally, there's been resistance from some in the fishing community to what happened with the windmills. They weren't happy, but actually see the money from that project coming back to support them, I think kind of indicates, look, we hear you, we get the importance of that industry to this town, and we are going to take steps to help protect it where and how we can. So I applaud that element of it too. I shouldn't really say, but there is a certain irony here of windmills kind of bailing out the federal government. But yeah, it's no, I think it's a great thing. And look, this is very much what Montauk is about. Without our fishing fleet, we're a very different town, and ensuring this harbor stays navigable is key. And I look forward to seeing this process come. Lastly, I'll say, where the sand is going, I kind of affectionately know that as Mermaid Beach. It's a lovely location. I know a lot of young families like to use that because the parking there is easy and it's shallow and low wave impact. So it'll be great to see that with the material there as well.
Yeah, for me, advocating for the South Fork Wind Farm before I was elected to office, and being the liaison to the construction project of it, seeing it to its fruition, it's I think the best use of that funding that we receive because of clean renewable energy to help make sure that our fishing fleet has navigable waters that it needs. And I see the nexus between healthy fishing industries and offshore wind. So this is an example of it in action. So I'm happy that everyone on the board is able to come to the aid of the fishing community. As David said, us taking care of our own with what we see going on in the federal government and lack of funding. It's very fulfilling to know that there's funding there available to use in our community from other sources.
Yeah, just to reiterate what everybody else has already said, the fishing industry, I think, is critically important to our history and our future. It's a big part of Montauk. It's a big part of our town, and this is definitely the right thing to do. Thank you, Kathy, for bringing this forward, or Supervisor, sorry. I think that although it's been in the works for 14 years, in a matter of days, the whole thing could have been lost. And I really appreciate you moving it forward, bringing it to us so quickly, and the whole board has been supportive, but without your leadership and pushing it forward, it wouldn't have happened. And I also just want to recognize Dave again. I know Dave worked hard on the emergency dredge, has been, very supportive of the working waterfront legislation at the county level, something I know he cares deeply about and has advocated for. And, I'm right there behind him to push it forward. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Madam Supervisor. So I think what we should do is reconvene with the Army Corps of Engineers at this meeting, contact Senator Schumer's office, Congressman Lolota's office, and I'll keep informing through the Fisheries Advisory Committee and those stakeholders what our actions are going to be, and I'll continue to let the board know what the responses are coming from the Army Corps of Engineers. But that's okay.
That's great. Thank you, David.
Thank you all.
Okay, so now we can move on to liaison reports.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I will kick off with, last night, the Amagansett Citizens Advisory Committee met. There was quite a deal of discussion and feedback with regards to the event that took place at the Talk House, the Sirius FM. I'll bring that feedback back to the Special Events Committee, but it really kind of, the main concern was the use of the parking lot around there, and that many members didn't feel that that was appropriate or fair to other businesses in the hamlet. There was also discussion about aircraft noise. They kind of felt that it had been louder in the last few days. I reached out to Jim Brundage at the airport to kind of understand what had been going on, which is very interesting. The flight paths are really driven by the wind direction, and we can have little control over that. So, what had been happening is that with a westerly wind, the flight paths had been going further out to the east accordingly, and that's why the traffic out there had increased as well. Lastly, so penultimately for Amagansett, just concern being raised as well about beach fires. Just a significant number being left and not properly cleaned up this summer, they felt. So I will reach out to Marine Patrol on that one and see what we can do to kind of get stronger enforcement there. Lastly, for them, the next meeting next month is atypical. Typically, it's on the second Monday of the month. Next month, it'll be on October 20th, same location at the Amagansett School Library. IT department, just to let everybody know, we're doing a GIS update Wednesday and Thursday this week. Just to let you, there'll be some intermittent kind of downtime where things might not be working quite as smoothly. If you do have any issues, do let the IT department know, but just advance warning that that's happening. Human Services, just advisory that the 2 p.m. painting class today has been canceled, unfortunately. Fire Marshal's office, we have a meeting tonight with East Hampton Town Fire Chiefs, focusing here really from their perspective on projects of defensible space and access to properties, which is going to be a theme we're going to be rolling out over the next few months. Wildlife Management Advisory Committee, just to kind of give people a heads up here, crossbow hunting as by Suffolk County is now legal on town lands. We'll be meeting as a wildlife committee to discuss that and what we want the town's reaction to that to be and whether we'll allow it. So I'll be following up with the committee members on that soon. And that's everything for my liaison report.
Thanks, Tom. David?
Thank you very much. The Montauk Citizens Advisory Committee met last night. We had a wonderful presentation from Kay Tyler and CCOM, an update about St. Montauk's water is very similar to what we have presented here. I want to thank Kay and the organization, and also Rachel from Peconic Estuary Partnership for coming in for that presentation. It was elicited a lot of good responses, and I hope they meet all their goals with a scientific approach to protecting Montauk's waters. Second, we also did a presentation, a little bit of the Montauk Food Pantry, obviously, then to a lot of members, which we also saw here today. And then we went over a lot of just questions about end of the season then too, and we're going to have a follow-up with the PD in upcoming months. Too. I want to let everyone know that this is the last weekend of lifeguarded beaches. I'll use that again. And those can be our oceanfront beaches. Again, I want to thank Chief John Ryan Jr., Dick Monahan also, and others, all the lifeguards, for their constant vigilance around our waters to keep all the general public safe then too. So thank you. Please make note to swim by lifeguard this weekend and be careful of the beaches post this weekend. I want to let everyone know in aquaculture that the ongoing, if anyone's interested specifically in Montauk, to join the community aquaculture program at East Lake, it still has slots available. There are community aquaculture grow out there. Also, they're doing their own grow, which means that if you're interested in growing oysters or clams off your dock or your bulkhead, John Dunn in our aquaculture department and the members of that department to help you learn how to do so then too. And then you get the bountifuls of the sea and some oysters. Invite me over, I'll bring the beer, and we'll enjoy ourselves then too. They're also getting ready to close up shop a little bit on the season and start their traditional seedings also then too. Want to let everyone know, unfortunately, there was vandalism at the Montauk Skate Park, and that happened over the holiday weekend. Going by the videotape, is probably somewhere close to 3 or 4 in the morning. I personally want to thank John Britton, John Edwards, and another young skateboarder that morning, that Sunday morning, for coming down there and scrubbing it all off. It's super important to remove vandalism and paint before it gets into the concrete there. Those two individuals and that young gentleman then too should be thanked for what they did to make sure that any tagging doesn't happen. I have to firmly believe it wasn't an individual in our local community, because the local community is treating that location like it's one of their own then too. I know we had comments about the Hampton Hopper, but the Hampton Hopper actually provides great ways for traditional commerce in the town of East Hampton this summer, specifically in Montauk. There's no grant money for this. The 2025 contract was about $171,000. We brought that to the Montauk CAC members last night. There was nearly 19,500 total boardings in 2025. The largest day saw 447 riders on there then too. There were multiple members of the CAC that thanked the town board for producing this. It helps with people traveling, it helps with commerce, less parking, and also there's environmental benefits of group rides then too. Wanted to make sure the board knew that as we go into our budgeting. In saltwater and boating news, the DEC let us know that the New York State is hosting public hearings on the Atlantic striped bass draft amendment number 3. This is to go for the Interstate Fisheries Management Plan for the Atlantic striped bass, which considers management measures to support rebuilding the striped bass stock by 2025. They will be holding 2 public hearings. One is hybrid, virtual and in-person. That'll be on Wednesday, September 17, 2025. It's at the DEC Division of Marine Resources in Kings Park. You can contact the DEC Division of Marine Resources for the virtual aspect. And the second meeting will be actually held at DEC's Region 3 headquarters in New Paltz on Monday, September 22nd, 2025. Please contact my office if you have any questions. In recreation, we have a full list of fall recreational programs that can be found at ehamptonny.gov. This includes girls volleyball, fall tennis clinics, fall soccer leagues, pickleball, pre-K exploration and free play, high school and men's basketball pickup, yoga, and up and coming, the Thanksgiving turkey trot for fun. Ian, I know you're training already for that, and at the Montauk Green.
Every year.
Upcoming. Every year. Spectacular. I also want to let everyone know that as we noticed, and I let the Montauk community know, and I know, Tom, we discussed this, we have a bid out for new soccer goals at the Montauk Lions soccer field, which I passed last night, and there was a good group of individuals practicing out there, individuals being kids then too. It's heartening, warm to the heart to see that happen, and I thank the volunteer coaches that are doing so.
Thank you for getting that move forward, David. Appreciate it.
No worries. Those are going to be big ones, and we're going to get some small ones too also then too. And that's what I have for today. Thank you so very much.
Kate?
Yes, I'm going to save everybody listening to his voice and do a very short liaison report. I'll save everything for next week. I just want to let everybody know, get the word out that September 20th is National Cleanup Day. The town board passed a resolution declaring it also the third Saturday in September as National Cleanup Day. Litter is something that I don't always think is on top of everybody's mind, but it impacts our environment and our community and our economics by having to have folks go out there and pay folks to go out and pick it up. So if you have an organization, a neighborhood, some friends, please participate in National Cleanup Day coming September 20th. There'll be more information going out on this as well. Thank you. And I'll save everything else for next time.
Thanks, Kate. Ian?
Yeah, just a brief liaison report. As Dave mentioned, Mark Morgan Perez was here today. Our new housing director started yesterday. I spent most of the morning and some of the afternoon with him. Just a very warm welcome to the town of East Hampton. I think he brings a wealth of knowledge and experience that's really going to help the housing department, which I think is helping us address one of our most important issues that we have, which is the affordable housing crisis. I also want to recognize again that staff in that department who ran that department for the last several months and kept everything going and all of our programs working and moving in the right direction. So very much looking forward to seeing him work with the current staff and all of the good things that are going to come from that. The Ag Advisory Committee meeting that was scheduled for Thursday, which I was actually looking forward to after a little bit of a break this summer, unfortunately was canceled. Thursday is back to school night. Several farmers are also very involved with their schools, and there just was going to be low attendance, and we are going to put that off until October. The Property Management Committee meeting will be held September 17th, which is a Wednesday, next Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. at the main meeting room at Town Hall. The big topic for discussion, I know there's interest from the outside, will be 66 Main Street in Wayne-Scott. So all are welcome to attend. Feel free to give me any ideas you have about that in the meantime. And that is my liaison report.
Great, thanks, Ian. I'm going to keep mine brief too. Excited Mark joined us today for the ADU discussion. So we've added 3 new professionals to our leadership positions. Last Thursday, we also hired Richard Normoyle Jr. as our principal building inspector. He is going to head up that department, and he's got more than 30 years of experience in municipal code enforcement and construction construction experience. And then we have a resolution on today to hire Christy Kinney, who for the position of deputy tax receiver, who brings more than 25 years of experience in financial services and client relations. So that's good news. And then lastly, as we discussed how we're trying to build up the department in the building department, we also have an appointment today for Joseph Birdie as a building plans examiner. We've added 2 building plans examiners to the department. Joe is the first one we'll be hiring. I will say that he is a Springs and East Hampton High School graduate. In fact, he went to school with my daughter, and his mother actually does payroll for the town. So he's familiar with our community. So we welcome the new additions to town government. So let's now move on to resolutions. I think, David, you've got the first one.
It's my pleasure to offer Resolution 2025-1221, authorize employee Steve O'Brien for a reimbursement for costs for the Montauk Playhouse for $65.23.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. 1222 is authorize a title search for judicial title for Suffolk County Tax Map 300-188-1-8.4 in the amount of $525.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. 1223 is amend resolution to approve change order 13 for the Montauk Playhouse, in which we're putting the appropriate budget line in.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have Resolution 1224, and this is to appoint provisional building plans examiner Joseph Birdie. Resolved that Joseph is hereby appointed on a provisional basis to the full-time position of building plans examiner in the building department, which is $58,496.67 for a 40-hour work week. And this is effective September 15, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 1225 is to accept a grant of scenic and conservation easement at 17 Jacqueline Drive, Amagansett. The grantor is Stuart Leteach and Anna Mivich, and this is again at 71 Jacqueline Drive, Amagansett, and the reviewing agency is the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 1226, this is to appoint Deputy Tax Receiver Christy Kenny. Christy Kenny will make $80,000 for a 40-hour work week effective September 29th, 2025. And I just want to reiterate Kathy's warm welcome. We're very excited to have Christy. She's a very qualified person and excited to have her join the team.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 1227 to authorize a title search by Dime Abstract for Suffolk County Tax Map 300-144-2-6.001. That's for 3 Berryman Street, and the amount is not to exceed $350.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 1228 to authorize an appraisal for Suffolk County Tax Map 300-144.01-1-1. This is for 4 Triworks Lane. The appraisal will be done by Elise Prado and an amount not to exceed $600.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 1229, this is a budget modification for the town attorney. The A fund, this will decrease the health insurance line by $40,000 and increase the amount of the outside professional line in the amount of $40,000.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I have Resolution 2025-1230, and this is a bond amending the funding source for the dispatch center. We had done this resolution back in August, but there was a mistake here. It should have been, the fund designation should have been the B fund. So we just need to bring this resolution back.
Second.
Carol, if we can get a roll call?
Councilmember Flight,
Aye.
Councilmember Lees,
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers,
Aye.
Councilmember Calder Piedmont,
Aye.
Supervisor Burke Gonzalez.
Aye. Resolution 2025-1231 is to authorize an application for a safety training grant. The Grants Division, in coordination with the Public Safety Officer and Town Board, is authorized to submit an application to the PERMA Safety Training Grant for chainsaw cutting, felling, and maintenance safety training.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then I have the walk-on resolution, which is ID 33376. This is to authorize transfer of funds, Montauk Inlet Navigational Improvement Project. Whereas pursuant to Resolution 2021-186, the town of East Hampton authorized the execution of a host community agreement, HCA, with South Fork Wind. And whereas the HCA contains provisions that require South Fork Wind to make direct payments to the town over a term of 25 years for a total of almost $29 million, and the town believes the HCA funding will allow it to pursue various programs, studies, and projects that have value and are of benefit to the community. And whereas the town has received over $1 million under the HCA to date, separate from the Wayne-Scott Fund payments, and whereas pursuant to Resolution 2022-1157, the town authorized a project partnership agreement, PPA, with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for the Montauk Inlet Navigational Improvement Project, with the town committing a specific financial consideration. And whereas the town has committed to date funding in the amount of $1.5 million towards the Montauk Inlet project, and whereas the Army Corps put the project out to bid and one bid was received and it is higher than expected, and whereas the Army Corps has informed the town that additional funding in the amount of $1.1 million is needed to keep the project timeline intact, and that the federal government cannot commit any additional funding at this time for the project. Now therefore be it resolved, the town finds that it is in the best interest of the community to utilize HCA funds for the Montauk Inlet Navigational Improvement Project in the amount of $1.1 million to ensure the project is completed in a timely manner. And be it further resolved, the project expenditure budget account code, it's the HA fund, is hereby increased by $1.1 million, and the finance department is directed to do the following transfer of funds. We're moving appropriation of reserves, host community agreement, transferring that to the capital fund, and then making an interfund transfer to the navigation Lake Montauk.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I believe that is everything we have for today.
Therefore, I would like to make a motion to go into executive session for CPF, personnel, public safety, litigation.
Thank you, town board members.